Hopefully my head doesn't block. Okay. My name's Katie Jennison. I'm a graduate student in the MEAS program here at UW-T. If you've never had a conversation with a child that didn't result in an excessive amount of why questions, then you never experienced me as a child. It was never enough for me to know that a behavior or act was right or wrong. I always dug further to understand why something was right or wrong in the first place. Even today as an adult, I still challenge my colleagues with the why more often than I'm sure they'd prefer. It wasn't until late in my undergraduate career when I had kind of an awakening moment, if you will. I remember it vividly. It was during my Rome in the Early Church class, and I remember the moment when my professor explained how other cultures in antiquity influenced a shift in Hebrew thinking from henotheism, or my God is better than your God, to monotheism, my God is the only God. I don't know why, but I grew up in a monotheistic home and was told that all other gods were false. So this seemingly insignificant moment in class changed my entire outlook in life. It grounded in me a firm understanding that much of what I know as truth was socially constructed for me and agreed upon centuries ago. Fast forward to 2016, my first year in graduate school, when I learned about rhetoric and the symbiotic relationship of power and truth. Power does not exist without knowledge. Therefore, what we believe as truth dictates our actions. Michel Foucault describes how power reaches into the very grain of individuals, touches their bodies, and inserts itself into their actions and attitudes, their discourses, learning processes, and everyday lives. My thesis is a historical rhetorical analysis of Western thinking that explores how the simple belief in an ideal or purposeful end in life designed a linear path for Western thinking. I demonstrate how dominant Western thinkers believed the world was designed for a purpose and that the natural world could be measured against it. And this, I argue, is the foundation for understanding our modern concepts of race and citizenship. To demonstrate this, I apply Michel Foucault's theory of power to my analysis of Western sources. To function, power requires a technique or a way to apply it. Essentially, it needs a way to create and implement truth in order to move through societies. As enclosures, I argue, is a technique applied to construct truth and control the actions of individuals. The first chapter of my textual analysis focuses on two Hellenic concepts as examples of enclosures. Telos, which is understood as a purposeful end in life, and arete, which is the quality of an individual's existence. In other words, many contemporary Western beliefs are predicated on this notion that individuals and societies can collectively become better on the journey to achieving life's essential purpose. The belief that all of humanity is working towards a purposeful end in life automatically implies that a map exists, which signifies right behavior and action towards achieving this goal. My analysis of telos and arete also extends to early Christian thinking, where I demonstrate how the continued belief in both concepts established the foundation for Christian apologists and the rationale for Christianity. The next step of my analysis uses race as a primary example of how enclosures function. I trace the evolution of modern racial thinking from René Descartes to Charles Darwin and the rise of eugenics. The 19th century changed the conversation about human difference from questions about why humanity is the way that it is to what kind of humanity or what quality of humanity exists in the world. Once race was used in language to construct a set of truths about an individual or society, these truths dictated societal beliefs and actions. Race became institutionalized through these discursive practices, and it designed and authorized new modes of power as racialized language was used in laws, policies, and regulations. The last chapter of my thesis, which is still in the early stages of analysis, will demonstrate how the modern concept of citizenship was born from these racialized discourses. The measurement of human difference not only categorizes people, but inevitably ranks them according to their quality of existence as it pertains to society. The concept of U.S. citizenship, I argue, operates as reimagined notions of telos and arete. My intention with my research is not to label Western thinking as, quote, bad, but to offer a critique. There are real consequences to thinking along a linear path, and my goal is to offer a perspective that challenges each reader to take a step back, reflect on the truths that have been socially constructed for them. Thank you.
So, can we have time for maybe a couple of quick questions or comments? Questions or comments for Katie Jennison? Don't be shy.
Yes.
So how does, you talk a lot about how these things happened in the past and they inform our thinking now. Can you give an example of how they inform our thinking now?
Yeah. Question is, if I can give an example of how thinking in the past informs our thinking now,
Right,
roughly.
with enclosures.
With enclosures. Oh, okay. The way that I talk about enclosures is really one element that I didn't fully explain is like the idea of categorization, like categorizing humans in general is just a method of enclosing. So in one of my chapters, especially the one that talks about race, I kind of follow a path of natural scientists and philosophers and how they started to categorize humans in general and just kind of calling out some of that language. Even just as simple as like black, white, brown, starts to create meaning. Like those names start to, it's almost like if black was a box, we've named it, we've created this confinement of what black is based on all these studies or just what we think it means. So imagine like throwing meaning into that box and we start to confine, essentially there's a point at which somebody takes that box, puts it into themselves, and they think this is what black means. And I don't know if that's a really good example of displaying that, but I'm trying to like just demonstrate visuals of what's kind of higher theory. But the way that I kind of get here to present day is following a path in which we continue to say how empiric thinking categorizes things in general to understand them, but how that kind of gets taken too far. How folks who don't fully understand that take it to today and say, no, we have scientific evidence to prove that black is X or that brown is X. Kind of still a broad understanding, but yeah.
Okay, thank you. We'll have more time at the end for more discussion.